What if I told you that one small, almost invisible habit before sleep could quietly shape a man's confidence, his energy, and even the way he connects with a woman in his most intimate moments? Yet most men either ignore it or completely misunderstand its power, rushing through their nights without realizing they're leaving potential, presence, and performance behind as they drift into sleep. The truth is, intimacy does not begin in the bedroom, and it certainly does not begin in the moment of touch. It begins hours earlier, in the quiet rituals you build with yourself, in the way you prepare your body, calm your mind, and awaken your senses. And one of the most overlooked practices in this entire process is a simple nighttime oil routine that, when done correctly, can shift not just your physical state, but your emotional and psychological presence in ways that a woman can feel without a single word being spoken. Most men approach performance as something mechanical, something that either works or doesn't, something driven purely by biology. But what they fail to see is that true performance is deeply connected to relaxation, circulation, awareness, and emotional grounding. And this is exactly where a mindful oil routine becomes more than just a habit. It becomes a signal to your body that it is safe, that it can release tension, that it can move out of stress mode and into a state where desire and connection can naturally rise. When a man carries stress into the night, when his muscles are tight, his breath is shallow, and his mind is still racing from the day, his body simply does not respond the way he expects. And this disconnect is often misinterpreted as a physical issue, when in reality it is a lack of preparation, a lack of intentional transition from the chaos of the day into the intimacy of the night. The act of applying oil, slowly, intentionally, becomes a bridge between these two worlds, a way of telling your nervous system to slow down, to soften, to reconnect. And this is not about rushing through a routine just to check a box. It is about learning to feel your own body again, something many men have unknowingly disconnected from over time. When you take a small amount of warm oil and begin to apply it to your skin, focusing on areas like your chest, shoulders, lower abdomen, and even your legs, you are not just moisturizing your skin, you are stimulating blood flow, you are waking up nerve endings, and you are grounding yourself in the present moment. And this presence is what translates into confidence later. Not forced confidence, not the kind that tries to impress, but the kind that is felt through calm energy, steady touch, and an unspoken sense of control. A woman can feel the difference between a man who is rushing, tense, and disconnected, and a man who is relaxed, aware, and fully present. And often, she will not even be able to explain why one feels better than the other. She will just know. The oil routine also creates a psychological shift. It becomes a form of self-respect, a signal that you are worth taking care of, that your body deserves attention and intention. And this mindset alone can change how you show up in intimate situations. Because when a man neglects himself, rushes through his day, ignores his body, and then suddenly expects to perform at his best, there is an internal contradiction that the body cannot resolve. Consistency in this routine builds a deeper connection with your own rhythm. You start to notice how your body responds to touch, how tension melts, slow movement, how your breathing naturally deepens when you give yourself even a few uninterrupted minutes of attention. And this awareness becomes a powerful advantage. Because intimacy is not just about what you do, it is about how aware you are while doing it. Many men underestimate the role of touch, not just in how they touch a woman, but in how they touch themselves. And if your own touch is rushed, careless, or disconnected, that same pattern often carries over into your interactions. But when you train yourself to slow down, to feel, to notice subtle sensations, you develop a level of control and sensitivity that cannot be faked. The warmth of the oil, the rhythm of your hands, the quiet of the night, All of these elements combine to create a moment that is deeply personal, yet incredibly impactful. And over time, this routine becomes something you look forward to, not as a task, but as a form of grounding, a way to reset after a long day and prepare yourself for deeper connection. It is important to understand that this is not about any specific type of oil being magical or transformative on its own. It is about the intention behind the action. Although certain natural oils known for improving circulation and relaxation can enhance the experience, the real power lies in consistency and mindfulness. In showing up for yourself night after night, even when you are tired, even when you feel like skipping it, because it is in those moments that discipline turns into transformation. As you continue this practice, you may begin to notice subtle changes. Your sleep improves, your body feels less tense, your energy feels more stable, and perhaps most importantly, your confidence begins to grow quietly in the background. Not because you are trying to be confident, but because you are becoming more connected to yourself. And this connection is something that naturally extends into your relationships. When the moment of intimacy finally arrives, you are no longer carrying the weight of the day with you. You are not distracted. You are not tense. You are present. And presence is one of the most attractive and powerful qualities a man can bring into any intimate experience. This is why something as simple as a nighttime oil routine can have such a profound effect. Because it is not just about the body, it is about creating a state where the body and mind are aligned, where desire is not forced, but allowed to emerge naturally, where performance is not pressured, but supported by a foundation of relaxation and awareness. And the truth is, once you begin to experience the difference this makes, it becomes very difficult to go back to old habits, because you realize that what you thought was normal was actually just a state of constant tension and disconnection, and what you are stepping into now is a deeper, more intentional way of living and connecting. As this routine becomes a natural part of your night, something subtle yet powerful begins to shift within you. And it is not loud or dramatic. It does not announce itself with sudden transformation, but rather it builds quietly, layering night after night until one day you realize that the way you feel in your own body has changed. The way you carry yourself has softened, yet strengthened at the same time. And the way you respond in moments of intimacy is no longer reactive or uncertain, but grounded and intentional. What most men never fully understand is that performance is not about forcing the body to respond on command. It is about removing the resistance that prevents it from responding naturally. And that resistance often lives in places you don't consciously notice. Tight hips from sitting all day, a clenched jaw from stress, shallow breathing that never fully nourishes your system, and a restless mind that refuses to slow down even when the lights are off. When you begin applying oil with intention, especially around areas like your lower abdomen, inner thighs, and hips, you are not just working on the surface. You are addressing some of the most tension-filled parts of the male body, areas directly connected to circulation, sensitivity, and stamina. And as you gently massage these regions, something important happens. Your body begins to release stored tension that you didn't even realize you were carrying. This release is not just physical, it is emotional as well, because the body holds on to stress in ways the mind often ignores. And when that tension starts to dissolve, your entire system becomes more responsive, more fluid, and more capable of sustaining presence without fatigue or distraction. Many men struggle not because they lack ability, but because they lack connection. Connection to their breath, connection to their sensations, and connection to the moment they are in. And this routine quietly rebuilds that connection from the inside out. The warmth of the oil, combined with slow, deliberate touch, encourages deeper blood flow. which plays a crucial role in overall performance. But beyond the physical, it also trains your mind to slow down and stay engaged with sensation, rather than rushing toward an outcome. And this shift alone can completely transform how you experience intimacy. Instead of being focused on performance in a pressured, goal-oriented way, you begin to experience it as a process, something to be felt and explored rather than something to prove. And this change in mindset is often what separates tension from confidence. Because confidence is not about control, it is about comfort within the experience itself. Another aspect that often goes unnoticed is how this routine influences your breathing patterns. Because as you slow your movements and become more aware of your body, your breath naturally deepens, becoming slower and more rhythmic. And this is incredibly important because breath is directly linked to endurance, relaxation, and emotional regulation. A man who breathes shallowly is often a man who feels rushed, tense, and disconnected, but a man who breathes deeply and steadily carries a completely different energy, one that feels calm, grounded, and in control without needing to dominate or force anything. Women are highly sensitive to this kind of energy. Even if they cannot explain it logically, they can feel when a man is fully present versus when he is mentally elsewhere. And this presence is what creates a sense of safety and attraction that goes far beyond physical appearance or technique. As you continue this nightly practice, you may also notice that your awareness of subtle sensations increases. Things you previously overlooked now become noticeable. The way your skin responds to temperature, the way certain areas hold more tension than others, the way your body reacts to slower versus faster movements. And this heightened awareness becomes a powerful tool because it allows you to better understand not only yourself but also your partner. When you are more in tune with your own body, you naturally become more attentive and responsive to hers because you are no longer operating on autopilot. You are engaged, observant, and adaptable in real time. This is where true intimacy begins to deepen, not in grand gestures or exaggerated actions, but in the small, almost invisible moments of awareness and connection that most people overlook. There is also a psychological layer to this that cannot be ignored, because when you commit to a routine that is purely about self-care and presence, you begin to shift the way you see yourself. You are no longer someone who reacts to life passively. You become someone who prepares, someone who takes ownership of how they show up. And this sense of ownership naturally builds confidence that does not need validation. Instead of seeking reassurance or worrying about how you will perform, you carry a quiet certainty that comes from knowing you have already taken the time to prepare your body and mind. And this certainty is incredibly attractive because it is not forced or exaggerated. It is simply felt. Over time, this routine also helps regulate your overall energy levels, because better circulation, reduced tension, and improved sleep all contribute to a more balanced system. And when your energy is balanced, your desire becomes more consistent, your responsiveness improves, and your ability to stay present for longer periods naturally increases. Many men chase quick fixes or external solutions, looking for something that will instantly enhance their performance. But what they often overlook is that the most effective changes come from simple, consistent practices that work with the body rather than against it. And this nighttime oil routine is a perfect example of that. It does not demand extreme effort. It does not require expensive tools. It simply asks for your time, your attention, and your willingness to slow down in a world that constantly pushes you to speed up. And perhaps one of the most powerful effects of this practice is how it changes your relationship with time itself. Because instead of seeing the night as something to rush through before the next day begins, you begin to see it as a space for restoration, connection, and preparation, a time where you can return to yourself and reset before engaging with someone else on a deeper level. This shift in perspective alone can transform not only your intimate life, but your overall well-being, because it teaches you that true performance is not something you switch on at the last moment. It is something you cultivate quietly, consistently, and intentionally long before the moment ever arrives. And as this practice settles fully into your life, something deeper begins to take root. Something that goes beyond technique, beyond routine, and even beyond performance itself. Because what you are really building is a new relationship with your own presence, a way of existing in your body that feels steady, aware, and naturally confident, without needing to force or prove anything. This is where the real transformation happens. Not in a single night, not in one perfect moment, but in the accumulation of small, intentional choices that reshape how you experience yourself, and in turn, how others experience you. When a man consistently takes time each night to slow down, to apply oil with care, to breathe deeply and reconnect with his body, he is training himself to become someone who does not rush intimacy, someone who does not approach connection with anxiety or urgency, but with patience and awareness. And this energy is unmistakable. A woman may not know exactly what has changed. She may not see the routine behind the scenes, but she will feel the difference in the way you hold her, in the way your touch lingers without hesitation, in the way your presence feels calm rather than pressured. And that feeling creates a level of trust and attraction that cannot be replicated through surface-level effort. What makes this routine so powerful is that it removes the invisible barriers that often interfere with natural performance, the tension, the distraction, the overthinking. All of it begins to fade as your body learns that it is safe to relax and respond without resistance. And when there is no resistance, everything flows more naturally. Your energy, your focus, your ability to stay engaged in the moment, without drifting into worry or self-doubt. This is the difference between trying to perform and simply allowing yourself to experience, and it is a difference that changes everything. You also begin to notice that your confidence is no longer dependent on outcomes. It is no longer tied to whether a moment goes perfectly or not, because your sense of control comes from within, from the preparation, the awareness, and the connection you have built with yourself over time. And this kind of confidence is incredibly stable. It does not shake easily. It does not disappear under pressure. It remains steady because it is rooted in something real, rather than something you are trying to maintain externally. As this becomes your new normal, intimacy itself starts to feel different. Less like something to achieve and more like something to explore. Less about reaching an endpoint and more about being fully present in every stage of the experience. And this shift often leads to deeper, more meaningful connections because you are no longer rushing through moments that are meant to be felt. Your awareness allows you to respond more intuitively, to notice subtle changes in your partner, to adjust naturally without overthinking. And this responsiveness creates a sense of harmony that is difficult to describe but easy to feel. At the same time, the physical benefits continue to build quietly in the background. Improved circulation, reduced muscle tension, better sleep quality. All of these factors combine to support a body that is more capable, more responsive, and more resilient. And this consistency is what ultimately enhances performance in a sustainable way rather than in short, unpredictable bursts. It is important to understand that this is not about perfection. There will be nights when you feel tired, when your mind resists slowing down, when you are tempted to skip the routine altogether, but those are often the nights when it matters the most. Because showing up for yourself, even when it is inconvenient, is what turns a simple habit into a lasting transformation. Over time, This routine becomes less of something you do and more of a part of who you are, a quiet ritual that signals the end of the day and the beginning of a deeper connection with yourself. And this consistency creates a sense of stability that carries into every aspect of your life, not just your intimate moments. You begin to approach situations with more patience, more awareness, and a greater sense of control over your reactions, because you have trained your body and mind to slow down and respond rather than rush and react. And this, ultimately, is what makes the nighttime oil routine so impactful. Not just the physical act of applying oil, but the mindset it cultivates, the discipline it builds, and the presence it strengthens. When you look at it from this perspective, it becomes clear that the routine is not the goal, it is the tool, a simple yet powerful way to create alignment between your body, your mind, and your intentions. And when that alignment is in place, everything else begins to fall into place naturally. So the next time you find yourself approaching the night as just another routine to get through, remember that within those quiet moments lies an opportunity to reset, to reconnect, and to prepare yourself in a way that most men overlook. And in doing so, you are not just improving performance, you are elevating the entire experience of intimacy into something more present, more connected, and far more fulfilling for both you and the person you share it with. Because true intimacy is never rushed, never forced, and never disconnected. It is built in the quiet moments when no one is watching, in the habits you choose to commit to, and in the way you learn to fully arrive in your own body before expecting to connect with someone else. And once you understand this, you realize that the real secret was never hidden. It was simply ignored, waiting for you to slow down enough to notice it and make it part of who you are.